Okay, today we're reviewing for your 6.1 to 6.5 test. And I mean, if we're reviewing for the test, it's also going to review you for the quiz. We know by now it's pretty similar concepts kind of interwoven together. Okay, so in the first slide, we're converting percents, decimals, and fractions. So just pay attention to the instructions. 68%. Remember, guys, a percentage is over 100, which is division. If it's division, it's making it smaller. All right, 68% as a decimal is what, guys? 0.68. Okay, what about 250%? 2.5. You can put the 0 after the 5. You don't have to. What about 0.8? 80%. Okay. Now, sadly, without a percent sign, you did not convert it to a percentage, okay? So on these, where it specifically says convert to a percent, okay, make sure you have the percent sign. What about number 4? Yeah, 467%, okay? Now let's come over here to number 5. We have 2 ninths, okay? Now we do know the trick of the ninths, right? Whatever the numerator is, that is the number that is repeating, okay? So 0.2 repeating, all right? And then as a percentage, it would be 22, but I know a whole number can't repeat, so I just do that first decimal, and then I can have my repeating symbol, percent, okay? Now 9 over 2, so we're going to kind of flip it. All right, so it's 2 over 9 on number 5. 9 over 2 divides, is this one going to be less than 100% or more? More. Definitely more. 4.5, which is 450%. Yeah. All right, 3/4 we probably have memorized. 75%. All right, 75%. Okay, any questions? That'll be the first section on your quiz and test, okay? Then we're going to get into kind of like the meat of our test because this was 2 entire sections. Notice that I did title this slide, okay? Now, on your quiz and test, you will be able to choose which method you want. However, I would suggest that the percent proportion is actually the better choice when you're solving for percent. And here's why. The percent proportion builds in the conversion. You don't have to worry about remembering to convert your decimal to a percent. If you say, I really don't like proportions, even if this one might be one less step, then you can use the percent equation. But if you leave your answer as a decimal, it's wrong entirely, okay? So I'm going to use a proportion on this one, but you can use the percent equation. You will not be told this section you have to use a proportion, okay? So let's go ahead and solve this percent problem. Like I said, I'm going to use the proportion, but if you want to use the equation, you're more than welcome, okay? So is over of, or A over W, okay, so 20 over 50 equals P over 100. So I am going to be checking your work to make sure that you're solving for P, because if you get it confused and you actually thought you were solving for W and you were to plug in 50 for P, you theoretically could still get the correct answer, but you didn't solve for the right variable, okay, because of how cross products works. So 50 times P is 50P, and then 20 times 100 is 2,000, okay? So then I divide both sides by 50, and P equals 40%. So if you used the equation, you should have got 0.4, and then just change it to 40%. You still get the answer right, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like with percent, the proportion is better because the conversion is built in. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when it's automatically divided by 100 in the formula, that's converting a percentage to a decimal for us, okay? All right, so next question. We have two of them. I'm not going to tell you what you're solving for, okay? Now, you'll notice on this slide, I said equation because I do feel that the equation is the better method when I'm solving for A or W, okay? But again, you're going to have to read them to figure out what you're solving for. So let's go ahead and work through these. You're more than welcome to work together in your groups. Make sure that your group mates have the correct answers, okay? So we're going to pause here for a minute and work on these problems. Okay, so on the first one, I said A equals 0.36 times 85. Now, please keep in mind, if you used the proportion, you would have said A over 85 equals 36 over 100, because putting it over 100 in the proportion does the converting for us, okay? So now A equals 30.6.
Can I do it with my hand again, and I still got 30?
I got 30.6 when I did it with my hand.
I'm so
Okay, let's do it actually.
Okay, so now on the second one, we're solving for
I
W.
did wrong. I did 42. When I said 8.6, I did 42.
Ah, I gotcha. Okay, 120 equals 1.25. Don't forget, on the equation, change the percent to a decimal. On the proportion, you could just plug in 125 over 100 times W. Now I would divide both sides by 1.25. And W equals, I got 96. Okay, how many of y'all got both of those right? Is it not 96?
Yeah, it's 96.
Yeah, I got 96. Okay, all right, great job. So percent equation, percent proportion. Now let's talk percent of increase and decrease. On your quiz and your test, I'm going to ask you, what is the percent of change, and is it an increase or a decrease? So you need to have some work. It starts with P equals, okay? You don't have to write the original formula, but I will for the sake of review here. The amount of change over the original amount, okay? Again, you don't have to write that step, although I would suggest that it could be helpful just to remind yourself, this is the amount of change between the two values. It will never be negative, okay? You're just subtracting the numbers from each other. What is the amount of change between them, okay? Between them. And then you would divide by the original amount. Don't forget, a lot of times these problems will have very long decimals. We go out, how many decimal places? 4, and then round it to the third, okay? I will be lenient on the rounding. It might only be like a -1, but that is what I'm asking you to do. 4 decimal places and round it to the third. Okay, so again, if this part you could do in your head, I'm not going to take off because I understand most of you could do 75 minus 25, okay? Now, if you just want to visually see it, that's perfect too. What do I divide by?
Oh my goodness.
What do I divide by?
The original number.
The original number, the first one, 75. So I know I'm dividing 50 divided by 75, okay? Now, if this is the first thing that you write, that's okay with me, all right? But I must at least, at the bare minimum, see this. So if you subtract them in your head, you know it's the difference, and you write 50 over 75, that's okay. And then we're going to change that to a decimal, which I believe is a repeating decimal. So remember, that means it keeps going. I want you to go 4 decimal places. That fourth 6 rounds the third one to a 7. So now I approximate, because I rounded, 66.7%. If you say 67%, it's a -1. It's 5 points. You would lose a point for the rounding part. Okay, so it's not a big deal, but this is how I want you to round it. So now I know it's 66, but is it an increase or a decrease? I went from 75 to 25. That's definitely a decrease. Decrease.
December.
DEC is fine. Okay, now on the second one, P equals, how did I get 54? I subtracted the two numbers, okay? 54 divided by what? 24. All right, go ahead and finish this one. All right, so 54 divided by 24 gives me, oh yay, it's not repeating, equals 225%. It was 2.25 and then I changed it to a percent. Oh wait, I forgot. Increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase. All right, very good. All right, let's talk about percent error. Okay, remember the formula. Percent error equals the amount of error over your goal amount. What is supposed to be there? Okay, so we use the word goal instead of actual because actual to me is a little deceiving. Is it how much was actually in there or supposed to be in there? So I feel like when we say goal, it's easier for us to remember this is what's supposed to be in there. So go ahead and do box A. Okay, let's start with box A. You're going to start with PE, percent error, equals. So numerator would be the amount of error between box A and what was supposed to be in there. How much was supposed to be in there? 21. How much was actually in there? 20.4. So to calculate the amount of error, I would subtract what is in box A from what was supposed to be. And then what would be in my denominator? 21. What the goal is. What was my goal? My boss said I need 21 ounces in the cereal. So that's the goal amount. That's what I divide by, okay? So you need to subtract your numerator. What's 21 minus 20.4? Yep. 0.6 doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I don't know if my percentage is right. Divided by 21. These will 9 times out of 10 be very long decimals when you divide them. Okay? 0.6 divided by 21. Okay? We're going to go out how many decimals? 4. Point, hopefully you're doing this with me, 0.285. Technically 6, it doesn't really matter. Okay? Because at this point, now, is this my answer? Does this help me compare it to 2.5%? That's not my final answer. What is my answer?
2.9%.
2.9, or I could even just say, I was supposed to do this squiggly because I rounded. 2.85%. So is my answer yes or no?
No.
Yes, it's no. It's no. Okay. All right, box B. Okay, percent error equals 21.5 minus 21, and what do I divide by? What do I divide by? 21. What's supposed to be there? So now I have 0.5 divided by 21, and divided by 21, go out 4 decimals, 0.0238. So when I change that, I get approximate, I've got a round, 2.38%. Is that a yes or no unacceptable? Yes.
You're not fired.
You're not fired. Yeah. Okay, yes. Okay, now we're going to review new price, okay? A $200 item is on sale for 40% off. A $120 item is marked up by 15%. For both of them, I want you to find the new price. We are using our A equals P times W formula. Okay? Now, you must remember A stands for the new price and W stands for the original price. Okay, so especially when we're solving for original price, that's important. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and work through these. There are two acceptable ways to solve this. That is not one of the methods. That's not one of the methods. I need you to use this formula. I'm not saying your answer is wrong, okay? But you need to be plugging the numbers into this formula, okay? So we talked specifically yesterday about how to show this. And again, it's not so much that we have to have it for this method. It's for when we're going backwards to find the original price, it becomes a little more difficult. If it's 40% off, how much did you pay?
60%.
60%, okay? Remember, I need you plugging in what you're paying into the formula. If it's 40% off, A is the new price, equals what you paid times the original, okay? So now 0.6 times 200 gives me $120. A equals $120. Okay, now you might say, well, Miss Kinder, I actually multiplied 0.4 times 200 and I got 80, and then I subtracted it from 200 to get 120. I will not mark that wrong on Monday. However, if you do that on original price, you will not get it right. Okay? Because for original price, you must subtract or add it to 100. Okay, so that's why I'm trying to teach you this method for new price, because this method works on original price. All right, hopefully that's not confusing. So now, sticking with this same method, let's try to do the markup. Remember, if it's the markup, that means it's more, which means you don't subtract 15 from 100. Yes. Okay. Let's see who can get that part. Okay. I'm seeing the correct decimals already, so that's good. You're not plugging in 0.15 into the formula. Okay. So if it's marked up by 15%, I must add this to 100. Okay. If it's marked up by 15%, that means I paid 115% of whatever they paid. Okay, so now A equals 1.15 times 120. You might not like it, so start your own business, I guess. A equals $138. Okay, can anybody interpret this answer? Can anybody put this into a sentence? What the original was versus what the new was? Think of it like what the store paid versus Colin.
I paid $18 more than the store paid for the same product.
Perfect. Okay. So if I were to say like it's a +1 to interpret this answer, you would say I paid $18 more than the store paid, or you could say the store paid $120, but I paid $138. You're recognizing that there's a profit being made. Okay. And we're okay with businesses making a profit as long as it's reasonable. Okay? All right, so now let's talk original price. With original price, I'm still using my formula as my basis. A equals P times W. A equals P times W. Okay? But remember, the P needs to be the amount, the percentage that you paid, not the amount of the discount or markup. Okay, it's the amount that you paid, the amount of percentage. Okay, and then you also have to understand too what it's asking you to solve for. Can anybody raise your hand? What variable stands for original price, A or W? W. Okay, so now 56 gets plugged in for A equals. All right, and maybe this will make a little more sense. $56 is what percentage of the whole, okay? It's not 30% off. How much did you pay?
70%.
So $56 is 70% of the whole. Does that make more sense when you think about it that way? Okay, the amount you paid was not 30% of the original price. It was 70% because it was 30% off. That's why I subtracted from 100. Okay, so what is 70% of the whole? That will tell you what the original price was. 56 divided by 0.7. Okay, so the whole, or the original price, is how much? 80 bucks. $80. Okay, I think it's a pretty good deal. Okay, questions, guys? Did we do a little better on that today than yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. Your modeling real life questions are really important on this test. You've got to figure out, and don't necessarily look for the words of and is. That could throw you off. You have to figure out which value is my whole, my total, that's W. Which value is my part, that's going to be A. Or do I have a percentage? Okay, so I want you to look at the first problem of the 287th grade students. 112 of them play sports. What percentage of the students play sports? You can use a proportion or the percent equation. It does not matter, but you must show work. If I look at this problem on the test and I cannot tell which method you used, I cannot give you full credit, okay? So I need you to work within the framework of one of your methods, all right? Okay, so again, either one is fine. Again, I told you at the beginning, when I'm solving for P, I prefer proportion. If you did percentage or the equation, that's fine. 1/12 over 280. 280 is my whole, 112 is my part, equals P over 100. So then I get 112, 11,200 equals 280P. Divide both sides by 280. And what'd you get?
40%.
P equals 40%. So when you use the proportion, the number you end up with is your percentage. If you use the equation, you got 0.4 and you just made it 40%. No big deal. Okay, go ahead and solve the last one, please. Okay, you're assigned 32 math problems. You complete 75%. So A equals 0.75 times 32. So A equals what? 24, right? 24. But that's not the answer. If you've done 24, how many, Matthew, do you have left? 8 problems. Okay? Don't forget to label 8 problems. So 24 would be like half credit on a question like this. All right, your review section, we only have 2 minutes left, so we won't be able to for the video review, but we will have this on our review sheet. That's our Monday homework, and go over it on Tuesday. You're going to factor. You're going to complete a ratio table and solve proportions in this review section on your test. That factoring, that pesky factoring keeps showing up, okay? So the factoring, ratio table, and solving for proportions, all right? Okay, and that's everything.